In this video, we're going to discuss how to evaluate a function when the input has a variable. So suppose we have a function like the square root of x plus 1. We'll just keep it really simple. So recall that if I asked you to find f of 3, that means find the output when the input is 3. So you would essentially replace x with 3. And so since the input was a number, the output is also a number. So f of 3 equals 2. If we have an input that's a variable, then the output is still going to be a function instead of a number. So suppose we want to find f of 2t. So just like when we find f of 3, 3 is the input. When we find f of 2t, 2t is the input. So 2t is going to be replacing x in the function, just like we did with the 3. So we get square root of 2t plus 1. If we wanted to find f of t plus 2, then again, the input is just replacing x. So this time the input is t plus 2. So that's going to replace x. And so we can combine some terms under the radical, and we end up with square root of t plus 3. Sometimes you have a function where the variable shows up in multiple places. So let's do an example of that. Suppose we have this function here. So if I asked you to find, g of 1, you would substitute 1 for x, and you would do that every place that you see an x, right? So you would put it in for x in the first term, and you would put 1 in for x in the second term. And we would get a number. So similarly, if we have a variable input, it's going to look really similar. So if we're having an input of 2t, then we're going to replace x with 2t in the first term, and we're going to replace x with 2t in the second term. And so again, since the input has a variable, the output is still a function in terms of that variable, whereas when the input was a number, we got a number output. Here it would have been 0 actually. Suppose we have an input of t plus 1. We would replace x with t plus 1, both places that we see an x. And in this case, since the input has multiple terms, you want to make sure you have parentheses around the entire input. So we're squaring t plus 1. We're multiplying t plus 1 by negative 3. So we got to distribute in the negative 3 there, and then be careful with squaring this, right? We're squaring the input, which means that we're multiplying the input by itself. So to square t plus 1 means that we're multiplying it by itself. So we'll distribute everything there. And then, like I said, we were going to distribute that negative 3 for the second part. So we have negative 3t minus 3, and then plus 2. And we can combine some like terms there. and the constant term is 0. So